lot of you don't seem to know what 40 acres and a mule is referring to, and if you do know, most of you only know half the story. Let's learn where the phrase 40 acres and a mule came from and what it means for all Americans. Come, let's do our homework. 40 acres and a mule is a colloquialism. It's just a nickname for a contract that the U.S. government had with Black people after the Civil War. The year is 1864, and the Civil War is raging in the United States. And the fighting was particularly dirty between these two guys, General William Sherman of the North and General Hood of the Confederacy of the South. These guys were going at it, and it was ugly. Things were bad. Until finally, General Sherman says, you know what? Fuck this shit. I've had enough. It's time to go nuclear on your ass. So he embarks on what we now call Sherman's March to Sea, where he went full scorched earth on the Confederacy. He started in Atlanta, and he marches across Georgia from Atlanta to Savannah, and he doesn't just hit military targets, he hits everything in sight. He goes full scorched earth on the South. He burns crops. He destroys railways. He takes down infrastructure. He steals things, kills cattle. He goes nuts on them. The whole point is to destroy the morale of the South, make them quit, give this up, end this fucking war already. And it's pretty successful. He reaches Savannah, Georgia at the end of 1864 in December. And they're kind of like, now what, right? So these four dudes, these were abolitionists. They had been talking. They were like, okay, what do we do next? Now we've crushed the Confederacy. Union's getting back together. We're going to win the war. What do we do with all of these people that used to be enslaved and are now free? Charles Sumner and Thaddeus Stevens were big abolitionists. They had been talking all the time. Okay, what do we do next? What do we do next? What do we do next? And Edwin Stanton says to his boy, William Sherman, you know what? Instead of just talking about people or deciding what we should do to them, why don't we speak to them and ask them what they want to do? What a fucking revolutionary idea. So they get together with 20 leaders in the Black community, including Garrison Frazier, and they ask him, hey, what do you guys want for yourself? And he says, the way we can best take care of ourselves is to have land and turn it and till it by our own labor. That is, by the labor of the women and children and old men, and we can soon maintain ourselves and have something to spare. So he says point blank, the best way for us to get ahead is to have ownership of our lives so we have something to work for and improve and strive. Literally, the American dream. Another part of the deal was they wanted their community to be isolated. Blacks they did not want white people involved in building their towns because they knew the racial undertones and the racism of the South were not going to be overcome overnight. So they, in a way, were advocating for segregation. They were like, listen, give us our land, give us our space, we're going to build up our own towns, our own communities, and we are going to thrive and prosper. And the president, Abraham Lincoln, said, bet, no problem, you got it. And he signed it into law. It's actually not called 40 acres and a mule, it's called General Sherman's Special Field Orders number 15. But in the document, it describes that Black people are now citizens and must be treated as such. And they will be given a plot of land to till and work the land, and they can eventually work to earn it and own it, leading to economic stability, the potential to build generational wealth, a way out of enslavement. And sure enough, things were going great. Good news traveled fast. People heard about the office of the Superintendent of Freed Men, and they signed up right away. They came and got their paperwork saying you are allowed to have and settle this land. Work the land, they set up communities, families, towns, schools. Look at this, the Freedmen's Schools set up on this plot of land that they had a contract with the government to settle. Oh, look, here's your parish of land. It is given to you, and we have a contract with the government. That's yours. Everything was going great until President Abraham Lincoln is assassinated. Andrew Johnson, this little bitch, takes over for Lincoln, and he is a Confederate sympathizer. He was on the side of the literal bad guys. The KKK was already causing problems in the South. They were raising hell. They were harassing people. And Andrew Johnson gives in to the pressure of these white supremacists, and guess what? reneges on all of the contracts that had already been lawfully given and signed to people to settle in this area. So people had been given their 40 acres, given their mules, had set up towns, set up schools, were thriving until a new administration came in and changed fucking everything. Who does that remind us of? I know there's a lot of discussion on Farmer Talk right now about the federal government reneging on contracts. Well, there is a precedent for that in the United States. Andrew Johnson did that with 40 acres and a mule. He reneged on reparations for formerly enslaved people. And looks like the new administration is up to the same thing.